Jerry, are you doing well? You look great.
Yep, I'm doing fine.
Good.
Tobin, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. You guys look great. Whole commission. Damn good looking commission.
You know, Tobin, you're kind of in a Tiffany blue room. It's very attractive.
It's very blue, isn't it?
It's Tiffany blue almost. I like it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
You
It's
know
my it's my office. I got a little home office here.
I like it. Do you know somebody who could paint, who painted that for you?
I do, yeah. Yeah. It's called Flyway.
Yeah?
Yep, that's the name of it.
I like it.
Thanks.
You know a lot about painting, right?
I know a little bit about it, yeah.
Just a little bit.
Steve
I've done it
Sweeney,
a couple times.
Yes,
you ready to do the consent agenda?
yes.
Thank you. And Frank, you know, you could probably take these home and wear these things in when you're spraying, you know, like putting on the sex.
Got a bunch of them that I use for when I'm doing grain dust. So
Jim Marino, how you doing?
Good.
Good. Jim Horton?
Long day.
Hey, we should be going, Jimmy.
Let's see.
7:01, sir.
There you go.
Let's go. Call a meeting of the Isabella County Board of Commissioners. Order. Where's my hammer?
I forgot your hammer.
Got it.
There you go.
Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
Liberty and justice for all.
You okay there?
Had a mild problem with my coat.
Oh, good.
Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Green,
Here.
Commissioner Engler,
Here.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Here.
Commissioner Horton,
Here.
Commissioner Marino,
Here.
Commissioner Swaney,
Here.
Commissioner Hope.
Here.
All present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. We have presentations and special reports from the county administrator controller. We have 3 appointments to boards and commissions. Brings us down to the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda? There's not much on it anyway, so we'll do that. That brings us over to committee reports, finance and administration.
Finance administration is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Item B is criminal justice and county affairs committee.
Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Human resource and public works.
Human Resources and Public Works Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Hope, do you have anything underneath intergovernmental affairs this evening?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Margaret, is there anything for administrator controller?
No, sir.
Item D is intergovernmental affairs. We don't have anything, or shoot, intergovernmental affairs, we've gone over that. The unfinished business, we don't have anything. Any new business?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add under new business, if we could, under one item, same as last time, board member discussion COVID-19.
Good enough. That'll be added. With that, is there any other changes, additions, or deletions to the agenda? If not, a motion to approve the agenda as amended is in order.
Jim Marino, so moved.
Supported by Horton.
Been moved and supported to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. Item number 4 is general public comment. Again, under the public comment is the instructions for public participants who have been muted and are interested in speaking to press 9 and their telephone hand. Commissioner, or excuse me, Nicole, is there anybody muted at this time for public comment.
No, sir, Chairman, there is no one for public comment at this time.
Do you recommend waiting any time on that, Nicole?
I think I would wait a full minute from the time that you started, Chairman. So I would say maybe another 20 seconds and you'll be good.
Okay, 20 seconds it'll be. Close enough, we're moving on. Presentations and special reports. County Administrator Controller McAvoy with your report. Margaret?
Sure. Well, I usually do a report only for the second meeting, but I wanted to give a report, given the special circumstances we have going on in our state, in our country, and the world. So just kind of give you some overview of things. I would say probably 95% of what I'm doing is COVID related, one way or the other. So I've attended a number of webinars and all sorts of other training things. The Open Meetings Act, as you know, was amended by the governor. There was some information in one of her executive orders to allow us to do this type of remote meeting. Also made some changes under FOIA. So I did attend a webinar on that. It was hosted by one of the attorneys in the practice that we utilize for our civil affairs. Did a nice job. I continue with my 3 times weekly Zoom meetings with the township manager and the city manager so that the 3 of us can stay connected as community leaders and touch base and kind of kick things around or whatever. I'm starting to do weekly Zoom meetings. Well, I do weekly Zoom meetings with my department staff ever since we started doing this. So the administrator controller staff meets every Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Good way to keep everybody in touch. Have started to do weekly Zoom meetings with the department heads that report to me. So we're going to be doing that, I think, Thursday morning. Attended an MMDC board meeting, also by, I believe it was Blue Jean. There's a million different options. They're everywhere. We're all using them. I had a Zoom meeting with Tim Nieport and Nicole Frost to talk about the minimum staffing plan for us to start putting into place now that the executive order, the governor's executive order, is starting construction up. Starting construction up is going to affect our community development department because we have to do, inspections and those types of things. So we're looking at doing a very minimum staffing to make sure that we can do that over the next week or 2 during the Stay-at-Home Act and following all the policies and procedures to do that. And I'll get into the depth of those in a bit. Today with a Zoom meeting today with the MIDC chairman of the board, the executive director, a person from the State Department, Lara, a couple of us who are the county representatives on the MIDC commission, having to do with the FY21 contract document. I think we got there today. It's been much less challenging than last year's, but still takes a lot of effort. Have had a numerous of conference calls with other administrator controllers and MAC getting us to this point. So I think we're in a good spot. Done some ongoing, pretty extensive research with the number of executive orders that have been released to make sure that on an ongoing basis, those that affect the county, we're doing what we need to do to participate the way we're supposed to be participating and how that's supposed to be. I think that we're up to like Executive Order 70. So not all of them are with COVID, but certainly probably 50 of those are. So it takes a lot to make sure that we're staying on target and we're doing everything we need to do to support those and not violate them. Have had multiple conversations with Chief Judge James and Court Administrator Curtis moving forward about as we have coordinated the closures and those types of things. Now looking at, depending on what's going to happen next, also coordinating the re-engagement. And trying to be on the same page with that. They've been wonderful to work with. Their opening plans are coming to them a lot prescribed by the Supreme Court. So we will be working on those together. Working on our re-engagement plans for whenever we do reopen, more so than we are now, although there's certainly plenty of us who are working now, both remotely and on site, and a number of our places as far as first responders, et cetera, who have been here full time. So We want to make sure that as we move forward, that we are putting together the plan. Certainly be compliant with the executive orders, with the CDC, with our Risk Management Association, and other requirements and recommendations. We're on the second plan. I would just give you a little illustration. This is the plan. It's a pretty lengthy document with lots of forms and whatever. We will have that in place and ready to go. And we're hopefully by the end of this week, and we'll be starting to distribute that and train people on that. You know, what is that going to look like for us? Just to kind of give you some highlights. You know, if people are in the public realm, so for example, Chairman Green and I are wearing masks today because we're 6 feet apart, and we need to be doing that. If somebody has a private spot in our building, so let's use this building, let's say in my office, I have a private office. In my office by myself in a private office, I would not have to have a face covering on while I'm in there by myself. But should somebody else enter in, or should I leave that? You're going to have to do that. We're going to want to make sure that all of our employees are safe and that they're all taking the situation. I know they all are taking the situation very clearly. You know, we're going to be marking off the 6 feet in front of all of our service windows so that everybody will know what the 6 feet distancing is. You know, providing, we're working very hard on all the protective equipment that we need, making sure that we have enough masks, enough gloves, enough hand sanitizers, and all those things. Obviously, somebody's not going to be able to wear the same pair of gloves all day. Put gloves on in the morning to come up the railings into the building, then you're going to want to probably change those. If you go down to the restroom with the gloves on, you're probably going to want to change those. You know, if somebody is touching a great deal of money or taking a lot of forms in or those types of things. So we want to make sure that we have enough resources for all of our employees to stay safe and stay healthy. And that is a very big effort. We have FOIAs that continue to come in, of course, and we're continuing to deal with those. We have a couple of them who I'm going to refer to as kind of intense. So they've taken a lot of time and attention, and we're working with our legal advisors to make sure that we're following those correctly. I'm going to be attending a briefing webinar tomorrow with FEMA, along with Nicole Frost and Chris Whitmer of my staff, to make sure that we are aligning Isabella County in the right spot. If there's federal reimbursement to come to us through via FEMA for any of the expenses we've had that are COVID related, that we're prepared with the correct documentation to submit those, to make sure that we're registered for the portal, which we are, to make sure that we have the training that we need, and hopefully that will position us to be able to get some reimbursement. You may have noticed in some of the check runs that you saw that there's a thing in there referring to as kind of like COVID-19.
Yeah.
The type of expenses that we are trying to keep, we have decided right up front that we're coding things a certain way in all of our departments. You're in the clerk's office, or you're in my office, or you're at the sheriff's office. If you get hand wipes, we can code them all the same, so that we're making sure that we're getting those. So the types of expenses that may be, I don't want to say they're going to be, may be able to reimburse to us are going to be personal protection equipment. We are buying tens of thousands of pieces of personally protective equipment. Just gloves alone, we're looking at 36,000 pair. You look at 300 employees, you look at how many times they're going to need those every day, you look at how many days they're going to need them. A big effort. So looking at personal protective equipment, sanitary wipes, hand sanitizers, plexiglass dividers, UV light, which we purchase for sanitizing of our law enforcement cruisers, wages and fringes for those people when they are actively working on COVID-19 related things, and all sorts of other related issues. So that is something that, you know, we're taking seriously. I've sent a number of emails out to other municipalities in the county, recommending that if they have any anticipated costs, that they register through the portal for FEMA. Those of you who were commissioners after the flood, you know that the county, on behalf of all the municipalities in the county, we submitted an application for reimbursement of $100,000 from the governor's strategic fund at the time. And we coordinated all that. We put that application together. We sent it in. When the money came back, we dispersed it out to all of our partners. We covered our costs and then dispersed it out. FEMA doesn't want to do it that way this year. They want to, this time around, they want every single municipality to register by themselves. I know A number of the municipalities in the county have done that. As I said, I've sent numerous emails out encouraging they do that. So hopefully many organizations will be able to, municipalities and public organizations, be able to get some reimbursement. The latest COVID numbers here, as of 4 o'clock yesterday, is the county has 61 confirmed cases and 7 deaths. Total in the state is 43,950 confirmed cases and 4,135 deaths. So that's my update.
Any questions for Margaret?
I would like to just say one more thing.
Yes.
You know, it's a tremendous team here. I don't know where we would be without the team that we have. We're very fortunate, great elected officials, wonderful department heads. The courts have been a dream to work with. The staff in my office, you know, all of the staff in my office, Nicole, and I'm going to forget somebody, Nicole and Melissa and Chris and Aunt Emma and Leanne and Jessica and Steve. It's a tremendous effort that everybody's doing. And, you know, I like to say to people are like, oh, you're busy. And I'm like, well, did you get paid? Did your bills get paid? I mean, you know, that's all happening without any strife and any struggle. And I think things are going very well for what we're dealing with. But Isabella County is a great group of people, certainly great wonderful elected officials. Mindy and I talk a couple times a week, touch base on things, work things out together. All of us do that. It's just a wonderful team. And I couldn't ask for a better level of staff that I have in my office. They're tremendous. So I just want to take my hat off to them and thank them.
Thank you, Margaret. Again, any questions for Margaret? Hearing no questions, we'll move on. The next thing is the appointments to boards and commissions. This evening, we have 3, and they're all singles, 2 independents and 1 new person in Parks and Recreation Commission. When we get there, but they're all singles in that. And the item B there in Parks and Recreation, Kurt Bernie is even recommended for the, so. Item A is the Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. It's the chairman's request for nominations for 1 opening on the Isabella County Economical Development Corporation.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Jerry Jelazinski nominates John Schimmelman for the Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors.
okay. John Zimmerman will be placed. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that nominations be closed and a unanimous ballot be cast for John Schimmelman for Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors.
Support.
State your name, please.
Oh, Horton.
Support by Jerry.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jazinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
yes,
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Number of votes cast is 7. Ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Item B is the Parks and Recreation Commission Chairman's request for nominations for 1 opening on the Isabella Parks and Recreation Commission to complete a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2022, or until a successor is appointed. Nominations are now open. Are there any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Jordan Bruesma.
Jordan Bruce will be added to this or added to the list. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations?
Mr. Chairman, Jerry moves to close nominations and for the appointment of Jordan Baruzma to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Is there support for that?
Support Swaney.
That was Jerry. Jerry, state your name, please, for the clerk.
Jerry Jelazinski.
And Tobin.
Steve Sweeney, I think.
Okay.
Steve Sweeney, I think.
Steve, did you?
Steve Sweeney, sir, second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jazinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
yes,
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes,
Number of votes cast is 7, ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Item C is the Veterans Affairs Committee. Chairman's request for nominations for one opening on the Isabella County Veterans Affairs Committee for a 4-year term ending June 1st, 2024. Our successor is appointed. Nominations are now open. Are there any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Terry Coons for Veterans Affairs Committee.
There will be in there. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Are there any other nominations?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to close nominations and put Terry Kuntz on the Veteran Affairs Committee Board.
Support.
Support by Horton.
Steve, did you state your name?
Oh, Steve Sweeney, sorry.
It's been moved and supported for Terry Coons to be placed on the Veterans Affairs Committee for the next 4 years. Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeney,
Yes,
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes,
Number of votes cast is 7, ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. That completes the appointments to boards and commissions and moves us on to the consent agenda. Mr. Sweeney, would you like to read that, please?
yes, Mr. Chair. Consent agenda. Motion reads, move to approve and place on file the April 21st, 2020 regular meeting minutes.
Is there support for that?
Support, Marino.
Been moved and supported to approve the consent agenda as read. Madam Clerk, another roll call, please.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeney,
Yes,
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes,
Number of votes cast is 7, the ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to committee reports, Finance and Administration. Gentlemen,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First up is the April 16th, 2020 routine personnel list. Motion reads, move to accept and place on file April 16th, 2020 routine personnel items as presented.
Support.
been moved and supported to approve the April 16th, 2020 routine personnel items. Discussion.
This is a very short list, 1 in the prosecuting attorneys and 2 in the trial court. All of them are step increases.
Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeney,
yes,
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes,
Number of votes is 7, the ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Jerry Jelzinski raises for a point of order. Miss approving the minutes from the last meeting on the agenda.
Yes,
They approved them, that was item 7.
we approved the Denise Webster resignation.
No, Commissioner Jelzinski, you asked me about the minutes being approved?
I don't see it listed on the agenda.
It's under
On the
consent
consent-
agenda, item 7.
Yeah.
Oh,
Then,
okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
okay,
You get it?
I see it.
Okay. Moving on to item number 2 on the Finance and Budget Committee, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. April 17th, 2020 invoice list, April 24th, 2020 invoice list, and the April 29th, 2020 adjustment list. And the motion reads, move to ratify and place on file the April 17th, 2020 invoice list in the amount of $1,087,180.47. The April 24th, 2020 invoice list in the amount of $697.54 in the adjustment list dated April 29th, 2020.
Support by Horton.
Been moved and supported to approve the April 17th, 2020 invoice list, the April 24th, 2020 invoice list, and the April 29th, 2020 adjustment list. Discussion.
So the April 17th list has several big drain loan payments, one to Isabel Bank and one to High Point Community Bank. Also $110,000 for the next gen 911 contract for Central Dispatch. $14,500 for DSS Corp annual maintenance contract. $13,800 for Manor Custodian for March accounting services, and roughly $50,000 for youth treatment to 3 different agencies. The April 24th invoice list, possibly one of the shortest invoice lists I've seen yet. $6,132 for next gen 911 cable installation for Central Dispatch. A little over $12,000 to Star Excavating for Metner drain repairs. And then $8,233.05 for Dell laptop purchases for multiple departments. Those were the big ticket items on those 2 lists, as well as numerous small items. And then the adjustment list dated April 29th. There's the Gordon Food Service early payments. 1 invoice added for certification for courts. 2 small entry errors, journal entry errors, and 1 invoice voided that was already paid. So any questions on any of those?
Any additional discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Horton here. And Margaret, maybe you can answer this question. I see stipends under the Commission on Aging. My understanding is Commission on Aging closed, or what we got stipends? Is that a part of a normal stipend payment, or how does that work?
We're paying all of our employees while we're closed, so we're also paying their stipends.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Commissioner who?
Commissioner Hope,
I'm sorry, yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jalzinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Number of votes cast is 7. The ayes receive 7, nays receive 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Next up on our list, fiscal year 2020 second quarter financial management services report. Motion reads, move to accept and place on file the fiscal year 2020 second quarter financial management services report as presented.
Support, Hope.
Been moved and supported to approve fiscal year 2020 second quarter financial management services report. Discussion.
We all have a letter dated April 23rd, 2020 from Steve Kurinovic. He's been good enough today to join us with looks like his home office or something there. This is probably one of the reports, Steve, that I'm going to ask you after you present it, since we did not have a committee meeting, both in the finance administration and also a work session. If you could please, at the very end of it, if you could speak to anything as far as how the COVID-19 possibly could affect county tax collections or anything like that. One of the bigger issues and/or one of the things too with people being unemployed and being out of work and the way everything is going as far as tax collections go, and far as rent and far as building owners and businesses, and how that's going to possibly affect the county. What do you see? What are other counties seeing? If you're aware, I know it's way, way, way early in the game. Not game, but way early in the process. But if you can, when you complete giving your report, if you could just touch base on that too, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. So yes, you have the report. I won't go through each point. I know we usually do that I bore Commissioner Horton and Hope with a lot of the details at finance but I'll just kind of maybe do a 30,000 foot view of the letter, and if there's, questions like Commissioner Horton said, I'm happy to answer those as I go or at the end. Continue. I think as everyone has said, this was a unique quarter, ending March 31st. The last month of that quarter, I spent, doing the work here, in my home office, which thankfully worked out very well. I think we weren't sure what was going to happen. But we knew that we thought we were probably going to be displaced. And so I gathered, a substantial amount of information before I left on site. One of the last times I was there in early March, I think it was. So a lot of this end of the quarter was spent doing a lot of the filings for the audit. As the points there go through. Point number 2 talks about, the wrap up of the audit that was taken care of. Your audit was submitted to Treasury on time. It was also submitted to the GFOA, which receives the audit and you get your certificate of excellence from. At the time, there wasn't any changes or extensions of time at that point. So your audit was due by the end of March 31st to Treasury and to GFOA. Those submissions were done. Raymond, the auditors, they got the audit submitted to Treasury, and then we took care of the submission to GFOA. So that was obviously a big deal. So we continue to get that certification. And we did a lot of tie out over that last month or so with taking our general ledger and comparing it to the ticking and tying basically every number in the financial statements between myself and Melissa Franquist did a lot of that too. So she did probably a vast majority of it. But so that was a big process during this quarter, the wrap up on the audit, and then it's kind of also the annual filings. Were taken care of. And point number 4, again, thankfully, a lot of that can be done, was done remotely. There's a return called, or a filing called the F65, which is basically taking all the information out of your financial statements, putting it in a format for Treasury so they can compile all 83 counties plus all cities and so forth. So that's a rather cumbersome process to work with, but again, all of those things remotely. So your F65, there are 4 bonding requirements. There are the qualifying statements that are required to be filed. Those were done. There's also some retirement information that's required to be filed. So all those filings were taken care of. Throughout this last quarter, February, March of the quarter, to get to assure that we were in compliance with all those filing requirements. Also attending the normal meetings and committee meetings and leadership council meetings and then just various informal meetings there in the administrator's office as things came up and we discussed various items. The last few have been via this platform, Zoom, and we've been doing a lot of those, that way in March and April and May also. Had a modification to one of the policies this year, if you recall, or this quarter, if you recall, we modified, in point number 5, we modified the federal grant management policy. Just kind of a tweaking of the wording. We already were doing everything that the policy said. It was just a matter of spelling that out in the policy to kind of dot our I's and cross our T's. The rest of the information there in the report is pretty self-explanatory. There are some things that I haven't been able to do. I don't have remote access to your BSNA system. So as part of the normal process, I would always review journal entries. So I'm anxious to get back on site to catch up on journal entries because obviously as Margaret mentioned, her staff has been and treasurer's office, everybody's been busily, posting journal entries, doing all those kinds of things. So there is, quite a bit of stuff that that secondary review that I normally do will catch up on that process, once, hopefully, very soon. the stay-at-home order will be lifted and we'll be able to ease back into, being on site and so forth. So there will be some catch up, kind of those floodgates will open a little bit once we're back on, back. I don't want to say to normal because I don't know what that'll ever be, but once we're able to get on site again, I'll be able to get in and do some of those things that I haven't been able to do over the last 60 days or so. But overall, that's pretty much the report. I don't know if we want to answer if there's any questions first, and then I can try to answer Commissioner Horton's question on COVID as best I can.
Now, I know there's nothing out right now, but I think, and we thought possibly something in the last round of Senate and Congress approvals on the federal side, but in 4.0 or whatever the next one they're supposed to come out with as far as some local government money, part of the CARES Act. What have you heard with that? Have you heard anything in regards to that? And I know Margaret's doing a great job as far as keeping track of the COVID expenses. Do you see any of that being tied in?
I mean, I'm seeing kind of what Margaret is saying. I just had another local unit. They have it happens to be a township that has an ambulance service, and they received some funding through the CARES Act. They received $4,000 or $5,000 for PPE, items and that type of thing, so they can which doesn't even come close to what they've spent, but at least they did receive some dollars through I think it was HHS through the CARES program. I envision there being a lot of fluidity to that, I know that they're talking. I've seen some dollars for like school districts and so forth. The U.S. Department of Education, they're kind of coming out with the federal grants and establishing. If you noticed, this year we did have a single audit. One of the items, and that's one of the points I make. The federal dollars, we breached that $750,000 threshold, mainly due to the expenditures we had for the flood. So similar to that, I think that they assign certain what's called a CFDA number, a catalog number, to federal dollars, and we're starting to see those trickle out a little bit. I've only seen them so far on Department of Education. I haven't really seen them on other FEMA dollars. I'm sure they're pushing those out, kind of uniformly across the board. But I think things are starting to come out on that, but the specifics to say dollar amounts or any of the specifics, I think that, like I said, Margaret, I think is getting a lot of that information in regard to coding items in the general ledger, so we're coding those correctly so we can capture those, because I think no matter how many dollars we get, inevitably they're going to come back and ask us, how'd you spend that? Whether it's $10,000 or it's $100,000, we're going to have to substantiate the expenditures.
So the CARES Act, Commissioner Horton, right? Unless the CARES Act changes dramatically, right, you have to have a population of 500,000 in your county to be eligible to receive any money under the CARES Act. So that's an issue. In Michigan, that's about 4 or 5 counties in Southeast Michigan. I also know that's how come we're doing preemptively doing all the coding for anything that we think is a COVID related expense as we move forward here, so that I think our best chance is going to get some reimbursement from FEMA. I know Michigan Association of County has worked hard to try to get county government into some of these funding streams. It hasn't happened yet. We have responded to some I responded to tons of surveys back about a lot of things in the last 6 weeks, but we specifically are doing now, last week they wanted a weekly report kind of what we thought some of our expenses may have been. At that time, we didn't have a lot of our invoices in, and we didn't have a lot of our expenses yet. So we'll be seeing where we go with that. We are trying to pay attention to every single item that we might be eligible for and make sure that we're aligning ourselves appropriately so we're prepared in case we are.
Any additional discussion?
Yeah, real quick, Commissioner. Oh,
Yeah,
Frank?
go ahead.
Commissioner Engler, yeah. Can I ask Steve a real quick question?
Sure.
Just real quick on, when you were talking on number 9 about the 3-year projections, and you were saying there was weakness in the software, is that due to the virus or is that inherent with the software
No,
program? No.
yeah, no, definitely not, Commissioner. It's, there's basically, it's a very high level analysis that the software will do. I think it'll do, it'll allow you to say, if we think expenditures are going to go up 3%, boom, and it'll do that across the board, but I think to make it meaningful and to make it as most accurate as we can, we want to hone that down, and be able to say, okay, well, we think salaries in this department are going to go up X, and we think salaries in this department are going to go up 2X, and so we can utilize more of a direct approach rather than kind of a blanket approach to just say, expenditures are going to go up 3%, and that's kind of what the projections part of BSNA is, at least from what we can see, not really honed down into being able to pinpoint specifics to be able to really kind of hone those projections down to make them a little more reasonable, or not reasonable, a little more accurate. Does that make sense, Frank?
Yep. And
Yeah.
are you doing the?
And I think.
Excel?
Any additional discussion?
I think Frank's asking a question.
Okay.
Frank, did you
No,
have
I
more?
just wondered, so when you're doing the Excel template, you're doing that in-house, are you? I
Yeah,
just wonder
and
if
we've
you're
got
doing that or you have to.
Yeah, no, we've got it developed and it's pretty well
Okay.
all set, and so, and I think that to go back to, Commissioner Horton's comment, I think that, they're, and what is COVID going to do? And I mean, I think it's going to impact multiple revenue streams, as we look at, we look at state revenue sharing, maybe not right away, but I envision, down the road, once, kind of trickles through, I believe, we're going to see, probably some reductions, again, just my opinion, some more likely some reductions in revenue sharing down the road, probably just because, it's based on, revenues of the state. And again, to Commissioner Horton's comments on property taxes, we probably will have, more people, unfortunately, if they've lost their jobs and are, and so that we might have a higher delinquent, tax base there, and where, we've kind of held pretty even over the last few years with delinquencies. That very well may be different going forward because of the state economy. Those would be two bigger ones, I think, commissioners, that I would share.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Marino?
Chairman, yeah, I just want to say that we might, all the commissioners and everyone here might pay attention to the revenue estimating conference that's coming up May 15th. Mac is mentioning that.
Okay, thank you. Frank, did you have another question?
Yep, I'm all set. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else for Steve? Hearing no further discussion then, Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Number of votes received is 7. The ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4 is fiscal year 2020 second quarter financial report. Motion reads, move to accept and place on file the fiscal year 2020 second quarter financial report as presented.
Support. My Horton.
It's been moved and supported to approve the 2020 second quarter financial report. Discussion.
So just a comparison budget to actual kind of picture of where we're at halfway through the year. as of March 31st. The first page, of course, is revenues, which always lag behind a little bit because of how taxes are collected. And then the following pages get into the expenditures, and it's broken out by department or cost center or whatever. I'm looking through these, so just to comment, most of them are at or below 50% on the general fund budgets, which is good. I don't know if Steve or Margaret, if you have anything you want to add to that.
Margaret would like to add something to it. Margaret?
Yeah, I'll just add another, and something real quick to Steve's report too, or just in general, was that the auditors were on the meet with the Board of Commissioners and present the audit to you, the second meeting in March. And then, as we all know, things happened, and they opted not to come, and then we ended up, closing to the public the next day anyways. You're not required to officially receive or accept the audit before it's filed with the Department of Treasury, so we have made all the filings. Once we get back to having more in-person meetings, we will have Raymond come and give the presentation to you, but it was good news.
Great.
Nothing to worry about. We added to fund balance. We didn't use any of the fund balance that was budgeted to be used, and we added to it. So they'll come in and give their report. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that that's what's happening. I think Commissioner Tobin, you pretty much hit it on the head. Our revenues always lag behind. And we're, some now, I don't think it's unusual to be in, which is about 18 or 19% in the general fund. And if you look through the expenditures, you're absolutely right. Pretty much below where we need to be. A couple things that are higher, obviously the building authority, we've made our last payment. So that would be a larger percentage than 50% of the year. You can look at the cooperative extension, just the way we paid that. We paid 3 of the 4. You look at the road patrol, that was overtime charge that we're just getting back into the right. Transfer out to MIDC. We transfer in our local share once a year. You have to do that up front, so that's why that's at 100%. And then as far as the other funds, looking at revenues, and the child care fund, those are pretty much timing issues of when we get our reimbursements back in from our grants. Central dispatch, that again is a revenue relating situation having to do with the private or the previous. And then recycling, we're looking at the accrual of the 40K and the revenue relating to the fiscal year and the sales that were down slightly. So I think we're doing about where we are generally this time of year. This was through March 30th. We'll see what the next quarter looks like. It'll be different, I'm sure. But I think we're doing what we've typically done every other year. Mr. Engler has a hand.
Mr. Engler?
Yeah, Margaret, you did mention, I know the parks are closed throughout this month, so that's going to affect their revenue.
So, yes.
We're really not sure when they're going to be open, even if it's going to go beyond the end of the month, but that's their busiest time, so.
Yes, and I
They're
want the
gonna take it.
commissioners to know that Suan has reached out to everybody who had reservations through the end of May. We did a code red call to all of those folks so that everybody got the same message. A tremendous job from the staff reaching out and talking to people, making sure that we will make them. I know that the state DNR campgrounds are not opening until June 22nd, I believe. So even if, even after the state, if home order, let's decide that we're going to open them after the end of the month. It's still, you can't just flip a switch and open the parks. We have to test the water. We have to do a lot of things. So, yeah, Commissioner Engler is right. That revenue is certainly going to be down. I will say that we certainly have appreciate the public support. I know that people love to camp in our parks, and there's great family tradition when they do that and how they do that. And a lot of that starts now and, certainly ramps up for Memorial Weekend. So we certainly appreciate the fact that the public seems to be supporting, which direction we're going in. Not much you can do about opening those parks now, but Commissioner Engler, you're right. That's going to hit. We have a lot of things that are going to hit our revenues moving forward.
Additional discussion.
Chair,
Mrs. Sweeney, yes.
Yeah, just one clarification on expenditures, page 3, health and welfare. I noticed that at the top, the substance abuse, there's no expenditures. And I was wondering if that was correct or if that's COVID related.
That's what's been reported to date, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Any additional discussion?
I'm sorry, is that normal that there wouldn't be, or is it pandemic related that there are no expenditures?
I don't think it's pandemic related.
Okay.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
I didn't know if you had your hand up or not because it's the circle come around you.
Oh, no.
Any additional discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, another roll call, please.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Jazinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes,
Number of votes cast is 7. The ayes received 7, nays received 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
Thank you. Next up on our list is resolution number 20-05-01, millage rates. Motion reads, move to adopt Isabella County Board of Commissioners Resolution number 20-05-01, millage rates resolution, and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
Support, Commissioner Hope.
It'd be moved and supported to approve the resolution number 20-05-01, the millage rates for, I believe, the county, townships, and the school board. Yeah, community school.
Intermediate school district.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. This was touched on earlier today. Mr. Kornovic mentioned a little bit about this. This is coming up as far as some of the taxes and everything. We had a meeting, we put this on, and we decided to continue on with everything the same. I don't really have a lot of questions on it. I don't really have any comments other than, does it have to be read?
It might be a good idea to do that.
Ooh, okay.
Resolution.
All right.
Please read it, Mr. Judge.
All right, here we go. I'll make this fast. Isabella County Board of Commissioners Resolution number 20-05-01, millage rates resolution. Whereas on November 6th, 1984, August 2nd, 1988, August 4th, 1992, August 6th, 1996, August 8th, 2000, August 3rd, 2004, August 8th, 2008, August 7th, 2012, and August 2nd, 2016, the voters of Isabella County passed a ballot proposal establishing separate tax limitations for the county, townships, intermediate school district in the county for a period of 4 years. And whereas Section 5 of Act 62 of 1933 as amended being MCLA 211-205K, MSA 7.6511 authorizes the Board of Commissioners to pass a resolution to alter or extend within an existing 18 mil limitation, existing tax limitations of the county, townships, and intermediate school district within the county. And now therefore it be resolved that the Isabella County Board of Commissioners recommend that the following tax limitation proposal be submitted to the qualified electors of the County of Isabella at the next primary election to be held on August 4th, 2020. Renewal of fixed operational millage shall separate tax limitations be established. Shall separate tax limitations be established for a 4-year time period or until altered by the voters of Isabella County for the County of Isabella townships and intermediate school district within the county, the aggregate of which shall not exceed 7.9 mils as follows. County of Isabella, 6.6100 mils. Townships, 1.0000 mils. Intermediate school district, 0.2800. That's a pharmacy term. We always put leading zeros, but that's beside the point. Total equals 7.8900 mils. If approved and levied in full, this millage will raise an estimated it's a big number, $15,593,774.07 for the county, township, and intermediate school district in the first calendar year of the levy. In accordance with state law, a small portion of the millage may also be dispersed to the downtown development authorities of the cities of Clare, Mount Pleasant, and Union Township, the local development financial authority of the city of Clare, the tax increment financial authorities of the city of Mount Pleasant, and the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority of the City of Mount Pleasant.
Good job, Commissioner Horton. Any additional discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Delzinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Horton,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes,
Number of votes cast is 7. The ayes receive 7, nays receive 0. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with that, that completes the work of the Finance and Administration Committee, sir.
Good job. Moving on, there's no Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee issues. There's no Human Resource and Public Works Committee issues, no Intergovernmental Affairs, and no Administrator Controllers issues this evening. We have no unfinished business. We have one item underneath new business. It's the board's discussion on the COVID-19, and Commissioner Horton.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for allowing me again to put this on the agenda for a second time. Just real quick, Margaret touched a couple things. Administrative Controller Margaret McAvoy touched on going back and coming up with a plan as far as her going back to work, and she had her folder. I can guarantee the fellow commissioners that folder is going to get much, much, much larger. Just a couple things we're seeing in what those of us right now who are considered critical infrastructure workers or essential workers in the pharmacies and also in supermarkets and other places and public enclosed spaces are wearing the facial coverings. The public should be wearing facial coverings. I can tell you that is a lot. I call upon the public right now to please put your facial coverings on. It's very difficult for me not to say mask. I've learned the term facial covering. I've used that correctly. Now that is the correct term. Myself and probably other commissioners have also been getting calls as far as to the recycling center. I'm not going to go into that tonight as far as when and how that's going to open and when or whatever. Just have a couple comments or statements to make. One, I see Chairman Green and Margaret McAvoy's wearing masks. It looks to me like probably a KN95 mask. The problem with those right now, you're seeing a lot of counterfeit PPE on the market right now. And you're especially seeing with the KNs. The KNs, if you read on the NIOSH, they put out policies, not all of them. But a lot of the ones like you have the ones that go right directly behind the ear that comes up like that on the ear. Most of the ones, especially the KNs and the 95s, they have 2 separate straps. But there are some that are approved. So I'm assuming, Margaret, you probably got yours from the state. So I'm assuming that those are probably approved. And with the recycling center, I also just to comment on some of the things, again, trying to relate everything to the pharmacy world. As far as some of the requirements for returnables, anything with plastics, the Lancet, which is a medical publication, came out 7 days of quarantining. So that's going to be issues with how is this going to be received in, even with the proper PPE that still creates quite a danger coming in. So we're going to have a lot of policies. When I mentioned that folder is going to get a lot bigger, it will. So that's one of the things we're seeing. We have to create a designated, we've created a designated quarantine center and have to basically leave it alone for the recommended period of time. Some of the products, some of the packaging mostly that we receive back. So those are just a couple of things I've seen. Again, the biggest thing though is the facial coverings as far as coming in, everyone getting out now. As we get, the warmer it's warmer, people are want to get out. Again, maintain social distancing, wear facial coverings, very, very important. Because it only takes one person to spread this. And we had a situation in one of our businesses, I'm not going to go into it, a patient of ours, like I said, it only takes one. And we have to be very careful. And our employees, Margaret mentioned community development going out. If they have to do any inspections, I'm sure there's going to be policies in place as far as the people they go inspect. What kind of homes they're going to go into? Are they going to be COVID positive? We don't know, because a lot of people without the proper testing out there, you don't know. Most people are asymptomatic. And you really, and again, this thing can spread fast. So again, this is a new way of living, and I'm not a fan of it by any means, shape, or form. And again, being in, I guess, an essential business, it's been probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in 33 years as a pharmacist. I have, like I said, mentioned last time, taking care of my employees, taking care of their families, having to deal with personal issues as far as my immediate family goes. So as everyone else shares with that, it is arguably, not arguably, it is the most difficult thing professionally and probably personally I've had to deal with a long time. So Margaret, you got your work cut out for you. And if I'm sure I and share the fellow commissioners regards, if you need any help, if you need suggestions, if I can be of any resource, let me know. And that's all I have on that. I guess I could have did that in announcements. That's not really an announcement. But like I said, the big thing I've got as far as community calls is the recycling center. So
Anybody else on comments? Commissioner Engler.
Yeah, as long as we're talking about the virus, I happened to have a conversation today with a beef producer, and he's 6 semi-loads of cattle behind schedule. They keep putting them off. So that means that his cattle are about a month and a half fatter than what they should be. So he was promised that they're supposed to get 2 loads this week out, but we'll see what happens. The beef are a lot of cattle there, but there's no place to process them. So I know news a lot about the beef shortage, but so I guess he's just kind of waiting. So the processors are not, up. I don't know when that's going to clear up, but anyways, thought it'd be interesting to hear.
Good. Anybody else? Any comments on this? Steve, Mr. Sweeney?
Yeah, I guess back Jim Horton, I've actually gotten quite a few calls, and of course, when I'm in the yard, neighbors walking by always asking about MRF and those services. And of course, I'm telling them that it's probably not going to happen until stay at home is done. But everybody is asking about that, and that's a service that they're looking for. So if we can maybe try to find a way that we can people can get rid of things, and we can do it during this time without employees, we should probably start looking into it. I know that I've seen on our street that people have started throwing away recyclables. So it's a concern. Obviously, it's not a high priority considering the position we're in here with health concerns, but it's maybe something we should really put some heads together and see. Maybe we can work with CMU or other services just for drop off.
Anybody else with a comment on this?
Mr. Jelezinski?
Yep, Mr. Jelezinski.
I just want to say that I still get the calls on the MRF being closed. And in my own case, I basically used up the storage space and threw away quite a bit of plastic. I did check with Jake at the MRF through email, asking him in terms of what the return to the county is in terms of finances you get on different recyclables. He gave me a price list, but I know there's interest, and unfortunately I'm one of those people that I'm starting to toss because I don't have any place to store it. I did find though that the Lions in St. John's, I happen to be going that way, it dropped off quite a bit of recyclables at their location.
Any other discussion on this issue?
Steve Kranfish has his hand up.
Steve, would you like to say something, please? Steve?
He's muted.
Nicole, is Steve muted?
Yes.
He muted himself.
Okay.
Or not, he muted. Okay.
Sorry, there we go. Push. I tried to get it off, sorry. Also, to follow up with Jerry's comment, if you are coming further into Lansing, Granger is, they are open on Wood Road, just down from, because we're closed obviously here to all the municipal recyclings are closed, but I know that the like Granger, who is, obviously for profit, they are open off of Wood Road down here in Lansing. So, I mean, again, it's a long drive, but if you are coming this way for some other reason, that is, that's an option too. So I think those places are open for what it's worth.
Any additional discussion? I have just one thing to say to piggyback on to Commissioner Engler's comment. It's a shame today to see in the farming community all the milk that's being dumped down the drain, the hogs that are being euthanized just because packing plants are closed due to this 19 thing. They can't keep people safe inside them. And when the hog has got the right weight, just like he's talking, these cattle are getting too fat. They won't bring as much on the market. And it's an out and out shame for the people in this country that are hungry and you can't get the food to the market to feed them. I don't know whatever would come if this thing stays around for a year or two. Like, we really don't know what's going to happen to the food chain that actually feeds us. It's amazing to me. I've never seen it in my 76 years on the planet. Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Horton, for bringing that up. Moving on, the next thing is the general public comment. Nicole, is there anybody waiting?
No, Chairman, there is not.
Okay.
Man, I wonder why that is. I wonder why no one comments about anything. It's depressing.
I don't know, Jim. Moving on to announcements. Are there any announcements?
Yes,
Mr.
Commissioner
Engler?
Engler. Yeah. Just an announcement that the Conservation District was supposed to have an electronic waste this 9th. We are still going to have it. It's going to be the 30th on a Saturday, May 30th. So it still is going on. It's just been delayed. You'll have to stay in your car and they'll remove it from you. So they've been working out a safe way to do it. And we did feel the 9th was too quick yet. So we are still having it. It's going to be the 30th. You can go to the website to get a list of items that are going to be accepted. So
Will that be at the fairgrounds again?
yes, yep. From 9 to noon, I believe.
Any other announcements? Hearing no further announcements, motion adjourned.
Horton to the motion to adjourn.
Joe Lazinski, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, nice to see everybody.
Good to see you.
Stay safe. Don't get the COVID-19 thing.
No.
Stay safe, stay healthy. Nice to see everybody. Take care.
Good to see you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Where does this work?
Okay, you need to go. Click in here. Leave meeting.
Leaving meeting.
Yep. So leave the meeting.